Hi, my name is Miss Howe, and today we're going to be doing a read aloud. But before we get started, I want everyone to find an elbow buddy. They can be sitting on either side of us, and because while I'm reading, I'm going to be stopping and asking some questions. And first, I'm going to have us think to ourselves for a second, and then we're going to share our ideas with our elbow buddy. So we just want to make sure everyone has one before we begin so we can all share our ideas. Give me a big thumbs up when you find one. Okay, let's get started. Today, we're going to be reading The Last Stop on Market Street. It's written by Matt de la Peña, and the pictures are by Christian Robinson. So let's get started. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. Freckled might be a little bit of a new vocabulary word for some of us. So when I think of freckled, it reminds me of the word freckles. And freckles are the little dots like some people have on their face. And so when it says the rain freckled CJ's shirt, it makes it seem like the rain put little dots all over his shirt. And so it looks like he has freckles on his shirt. Let's continue. But actually, before we begin, I want to think, has anyone ever smelled rain before? And if you have, what did it smell like? So we're going to take a second right now, think about that to ourselves, and then we're going to share with our elbow buddy. Give everyone a second to do that. Okay, we're going to keep going. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus in all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through her straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain patter against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do you need a car for?" "We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged as the doors swung open. So, before we begin, do we have any guesses of where Nana and CJ are going to be going? Good idea. Could be going home, going to the grocery store. Let's find out. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear and placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. So why do you think Nana prefers to ride the bus instead of having a car? What does that tell us about Nana and what she values the most? Let's take a second to think to ourselves. And then we're going to share our ideas with our elbow buddy, but no rush. We're going to want to have lots of thoughts right now. Okay, we're going to keep going. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and said, "Good afternoon." She made sure CJ did the same. So what kinds of people do we see on the bus? Do they all look the same? Do they look different? They all look very different because anyone and everyone can ride the bus. We have an old lady, a musician. Everyone's got places to be. And different buses can take us different places. Like we have a school bus, which takes us to school. There's a public bus that can take us around town, and different things like that. We all have different journeys. The bus lurched forward and stopped. Lurched forward and stopped. So lurch, again, might be a little bit of a new word for us. Lurch is when something moves suddenly and maybe a little bit roughly. So for context, it seemed like the bus went forward, stopped, really fast, and they weren't expecting it. So let's continue. Nana hummed as she knit. How come we gotta go here after church? CJ said. Miguel and Colby never have to go anywhere. I feel bad for those boys, she told him. They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the sunglass man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat. CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side, watched a group of boys hop curls on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. How come that man can't see? Boy, what do you know anything about seeing? Nana told him. Some people watch the world with their ears. That's a fact. Their noses too, the man said, sniffing at the air. That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am. Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. So, Nana talks about seeing the beauty in small things from our actions. Can we think of a moment where we didn't like something at first but later learn to appreciate it? Take a second to think to ourselves. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. I believe in you guys. So some examples might be like, you have a little brother who comes home. Maybe you didn't like him anymore at the beginning, but now you're best friends. Different things like that. So let's continue. 2 older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood him back. Sure wish I had one of those, he said. Nana set down her knitting. What for? You got the real thing, live thing sitting across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play us a song? CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. To feel the magic of music, the blind man whispered, I like to close my eyes. Nana closed hers too, and so did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus and out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors crashing over waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full and was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. So do we think that music is making CJ feel? Does it change his mood? Does it make him happier? Make him sad? Yeah, it seems to make him happier and appreciate and see all the pretty things like sunsets and butterflies. Oopsie. The song ended and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boy in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. Last stop on Market Street, Mr. Jennings called. Do we have any last guesses of where we think CJ and Nana are going now that they've reached the last stop on Market Street? Any final guesses? Again, we don't know yet, but just thinking about what we know about Nana and her values along with CJ. Just keep that in mind. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for his Nana's hand. How come it's always so dirty over here? So graffiti might be a little bit of a new word for some of us again. And so graffiti are pictures or words that people draw on walls or buildings. So like in this case, Someone's done it on a wall right here, along with the building up here. And it can be writing or a drawing, but it's typically done without permission, but sometimes can be with permission from someone. She smiled and pointed to the sky. Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful. Any guesses what's going to happen? What are they going to see? CJ saw a perfect rainbow arching over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful, where he never even thought to look. He looked all around them again, as the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lamps still lit up bright, and the stray cat's shadows moving across the wall. What a pretty rainbow! You wouldn't have seen that if he wasn't looking a little harder. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh, her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now, come on." They went to the soup kitchen and they're volunteering. They help serve people soup. I think it looks really yummy and looks like a lot of people are enjoying it, which is good to see. The end. So now that we've finished that, let's just take a minute and think to ourselves what we learned from that book and what we liked about it. Now I'm going to have everyone go back to their small groups table and our little table groups that we typically sit at. And we're going to talk about how Nana finds beauty in small things like rain or the bus ride, the music, and the people that they meet. What lesson do we think that Nana was trying to teach CJ? Can we think of something in our own lives that seems ordinary but is actually special? So in our small groups, we're going to think of what Nana was trying to teach CJ, and then after we're going to try and think of something in our own lives that we think is actually very special. That may seem ordinary to some people. So we're going to create a big list all together, so make sure we're all going to try and think of our own ideas. Go ahead. Obviously, I'd give a lot more time to do this, but just because I will be waiting now without students actually here in front of me, some examples could be a home to keep them safe and warm, along with a meal to keep their bellies full.